Battalion 202, Battalion 261, Engine 212, Engine 2209, Engine 217, Ladder Tender 219, Fire Channel B3, Commercial Fire, Mountain Vista Medical, 1301 South Crisman. This will be the southeast elevators.
Oh, sorry.
Medical, what's the location of your emergency?
Mountain Vista. Oh, no.
The phone with you until that fire department's there, okay?
It's getting hot in here.
Jeff, what floor is it saying that you're stuck on?
It doesn't have a floor. Everything was black.
Do me a favor, lay down on the floor. Stay as close to the floor
I'm
as
on the
possible.
floor.
Okay, you're going to stay on as close to the floor as possible now that the smoke's getting in there, okay?
What's your name?
Mine?
Yeah.
Hannah?
Nice to meet you.
We're going
We should have met under different circumstances.
We're
but
gonna get you out of here, Jeff, okay? We got tons of fire trucks there.
Can you tell my sister that I love her?
And I was coughing up some black stuff, and but yeah, I just stayed on the floor, and you know, Hannah kept telling me they're on their way, they're there, you know, and then when I heard you guys at the door, I knew I was gonna make it, but I didn't know. And you know, it sounds kind of corny, I guess, but I had kind of resigned myself. I read a book once that says, accept the worst case scenario, right? And then once you've done that, you can think more rationally, you can think clear. And that's kind of what happened.
Chris Slayer, I wanted to take a few minutes today to talk to you about a mid-rise fire in a 5-story medical complex that we had. The fire was in an elevator shaft with the victim trapped in the elevator above the fire.
So we had elevator access, we had stairwell access, and we had our truck really close to us. This fire, I was thinking I probably want to be more deliberate and more thoughtful in the reports that I'm giving, because there's a lot of information that command needs that he can't. The idea of doing a 360 on the commercial building wasn't feasible. I was just trying to gather as much visual information as I could to try and start making assignments. Additional information had told us that he was stuck in the center elevator, middle elevator, between the second and third floor. That was where our initial attention was focused. There's all these layers built into that building. So there's the alarm panel. The alarm activation should trigger an elevator recall. So all those elevators should go to the first floor. Doors should open. That didn't happen. I saw engine 2209 pulling up, so I called them on the radio, and they responded right away. The assignment I gave them was to support the building systems. My concern was I wanted to be able to gain control over the elevators if we could. I wanted to have somebody with eyes on the alarm panel so we could try and get an indication of what smoke detectors or heat sensors had tripped, so we could understand maybe some of the origins and what we were trying to fight. What happening was the crew from engine 217 and the crew from engine 212 were on the second floor trying to get the elevator doors open. That elevator was completely charged with black smoke on the ground in the elevator. Got them up, called command, said we had the victim removed from the elevator.
The arriving crew's tactical priority was search, rescue, and fire control. They came and identified this Enunciator panel in the lobby to scroll down to the first initial alarm to see where the fire was located. If this alarm doesn't provide you, Enunciator panel provides you the information you need to access the fire control room. But it's imperative that we identify the first alarm of the day. Accessing the Enunciator panel, whether it's in the lobby or the fire control room, is one of our first tactical priorities. We have to identify the fire size, extent, and location. We can access this through the Knox box if it's identified here, and we'll go in and look at the alarm panel and we'll discuss some considerations. Once we've identified the Enunciator panel, again, whether it's in the lobby or fire control room, we have to scroll back to the very beginning alarm of the day. In this case, we had multiple floors with smoke, and we needed to know where it originated from to make a good tactical decision on fire attack. Also, this comes into play for ventilation and future use, and sometimes, whether it's mid-rise or high-rise, in the elevator control room or the fire control room, we can account for all of the elevators. Again, in this scenario, the elevator stopped, and we will discuss why once we get into these options. They didn't recall like they should have in a priority 1 alarm with the smoke, and we're going to discuss why that didn't happen.
It's okay to acknowledge, but don't silence. If you're going to use the PA system, then it is okay to acknowledge and silence.
In a high-rise or mid-rise event, we want to access the elevators. We do that in a couple ways. We have to get the key either out of the Knox box or the fire control room to bring these into phase 1. Typically, in a smoke alarm situation, the elevators will recall to the lobby floor unless the fire's in the lobby. Then it goes to the next common landing. In phase 1, when we bring the elevators to the lobby floor, the fireman feature is solid in the event that everything is operating perfectly. If there's fire, smoke, or water in the elevator machine room or the elevator shaft, this light will blink, indicating that we should not take the elevator either. In this particular event, the elevators were stuck in multiple locations because a heat sensor went off before the smoke sensor. If a heat sensor goes off in the elevator shaft or the fire or the elevator control room, then the elevators will stop in place, forcing us to perform the rescue, bring it down to the next closest floor. In the event that recalling the elevators to phase 1 didn't work, we're going to access the fire control room. And here in the fire control room, best practices for elevator rescue are resetting the elevator and turning it back on. If that doesn't recall them into phase 1, then we're going to shut the elevator power off and lockout tagout. If we do not have a lockout tagout kit, we need to leave somebody here to make sure these elevators don't get turned back on. We had to bypass the best practices because of the rescue profile. The elevator was filling with smoke, the person in it was in imminent danger, and it had stopped mid-floor. So this wasn't an option. However, I wanted to cover common best practices for elevator rescue. The victim was found here on floor 2 in the center elevator. The initial arriving company had their elevator key with them. However, their collar was set too short, so they were unable to open the elevator. The second crew that was dedicated to the rescue had the proper depth, which is right about 3 inches, and we were able to access this elevator door. In order to use this key properly, you want to insert it until this part flips down. Once you do that, you're going to rotate the key clockwise until you feel the latch, exposing either the interior of the elevator or the interior doors. Meaning, if the elevator car is flush, you should only have to open this exterior door that is connected to the interior door. If this is off anyway, you're going to just expose the interior door, which you might have to operate an internal latch. In this case, that happened. In order to use this key properly, we'll insert this until we see this piece actually come down. You'll feel that, and then you want to rotate the key clockwise until you feel the latch. Once you feel the latch, this door will open, pulling away the skin from the interior doors. So as we insert this key, I'm just gonna wait for that latch to flip down. Once I feel that, I'm going to spin this clockwise until I feel it latch. Once I feel that latch, I'm gonna open this door, exposing the interior door of the elevator. Since it's centered, I have to remove the key because both door and skin will open at the same time. In the event, again, that the elevator is not flush, we'll expose that interior door and we'll have to open it separately. Some of the other tactical priorities we dealt with in this fire are an attack stairwell and evacuation stairwell. Determining the fire attack stairwell versus the evacuation stairwell, there's 3 considerations. Distance to the fire. Ideally, we would want to use the closest standpipe for fire attack. Roof access to either evacuate people or smoke, and that stairwell has to be completely free of civilians before we open the fire door. If we contaminate the stairwell with smoke or heat, we risk killing civilians in the stairwell. Actually had to utilize the standpipe system. The initial arriving crew flushed the standpipe just as we would a hydrant. and identified if there's any pressure reducing or pressure restricting features. We'll cover that in some still photos after this. Crews need to be familiar with what types of valve we're operating on in a stairwell. There are typically two different types: a PRV, or a pressure reducing valve, and a PRD, or pressure restricting device. The PRV is identified by a threaded stem inside the valve cap. Like the photo you see on the first photo, the valve on the left has a threaded stem. That would indicate there's no pressure reducing feature in that valve at all. The valve on the right with a smooth stem inside of it indicates that that does have some type of pressure reducing feature, and it may or may not be firefighter or field adjustable. The series of photos in the last picture are pressure restricting devices. These are very common in the city of Mesa. There's either a flow restrictor internally inside the cap, or there's something to restrict the wheel from going all the way open, whether it's a pull pin or some type of Allen wrench feature. That is a pressure restricting device, and we will encounter those quite a bit. So it's important that we're familiar with those, because if it's a PRV, or a pressure reducing valve, we should consider a 2.5-inch hose line. In conclusion, all of the primary assignments are based on a strategic decision-making model. That allows us to take into consideration critical fireground factors, your rescue profile, and your risk management plan. That helps you develop an incident action plan of rescue, incident stabilization, and firefighter safety. When the initial companies got there and their objective was search, rescue, and fire control, those are three very different things in a 5-story medical complex with a known victim trapped and multiple people evacuating. However, Engine 17 took those objectives and prioritized, let's see if we can locate the fire by accessing the Enunciator panel, and then ultimately trying to search for the person in the elevator. Missing elevators are a search priority as well. Additionally, Engine 12 was assigned to rescue the victim specifically. So we had fire control taken care of if necessary, rescue if necessary, and the ladder, the first due ladder, was assigned to fire attack stairwell. And each one of those items would be reinforced as necessary, whether fire attack, rescue, or evacuation. Of course, because of the rescue profile. Most severely threatened, largest number of evacuees, and of course the remainder of the fire area. So the strategic decision-making model really comes into play in an incident like this, and always taken into consideration is life safety is our absolute priority. There were some tactical considerations that I didn't get to, but thought about on the fire ground. One of those was my second and third in ladder. I would have liked to assign them to the Charlie side to give me roof access and access to the Bravo and Delta sides of the structure. Although the interior ports weren't driving me that direction yet, I had to prioritize getting search crews to the 5th, 4th, and 3rd floor as they were filling with smoke. So I opted to use the ladders for those and life safety instead of giving me a roof profile, which I would have liked to have. So there were some lessons learned here, a lot of tactical priorities. I could not have done any of this without Captain Hagerman and Captain Matt Rogers. They were instrumental in putting stuff together in the command van. So I just want to give them a special thank you. Also, if you would like to review this call, it is in the alarm room file on the shared drive, and it's also in my file on the shared drive with Standpipe Operations PowerPoint if you would like to review any of that. If you have any questions, feel free to call any of us. We'd be happy to answer. I hope you took something away from each little thing we did today, and stay safe.